Chair at this time lays out HCR 81 and recognizes its author, Representative Schatzline.
Right. Thank you, Chairman Dutton and Vice Chair Lujan, and members as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to lay out this HCR 81, which would affirm the state's commitment to fighting the ongoing battle against fatherlessness. This is a really personal one for me, and I'm so grateful that you would take the time to hear this out. I've spent the last 10 years working with at-risk kids, whether it be through football programs, at-risk student programs in public schools. I was an educator, and I was a pastor as well. And in the process of doing all this, one of the most common themes we saw with our behavioral issues was the lack of a father in the home. And not being the only factor, but one of the major factors that we see. Fatherlessness plays a major role in the crime spikes we're witnessing here in Texas and across the nation, and the research shows it. Many studies show that the less interactions between a father and child, the higher chance they are to commit a crime or to have contact with the juvenile justice system. Another study shows that children who come from father-absent homes are at greater risk of using illicit substances at a younger age. HCR 81 simply affirms that the legislature recognizes the importance of fatherhood in the lives of children. It also affirms the legislature is committed to researching and understanding the root causes of fatherlessness and crafting public policy that supports and encourages fully engaged fatherhood. While this is only a resolution, supporting this sends a strong message to Texas families and the rest of the nation that here in Texas we are committed to solving the issues that affect our next generation. Members, at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have, and if there are none, I'd like to reserve my right to close.
Any questions of Representative Schatzline, members? Not hearing any, we'll give you the right to close.
Thank you.
And we'll start down the public testimony at this point. The chair calls Taran Champagne.
Good evening. My name is Taran Champagne. I am representing myself, and I am in favor of HCR 81, and I'd like to give a special recognition to my Representative Tarico. It's a pleasure to testify in front of you. This resolution is long overdue and recognize the importance of fathers that they play in the lives of children. Truly, the best interest of the child is for children to be raised in an intact two-person household. Unfortunately, we do not live in such a world where this ideal is celebrated and must instead realize what we are facing in the state of Texas. In the state of Texas, out of a total of 1,476,908 cases with the Attorney General, the father is listed as the non-custodial or absent as per the OAG software in 1,349,688 cases as of February 27, 2023. This is 91.2% of all the cases where the father plays less than equal role in the child's life. Clearly, there's some sort of bias at play here that cannot be explained away simply by assuming the dad abandoned the kid. I'm certain an interim study, if it was done by this committee, they would find that an overwhelming absence of fathers in children's lives is not from dad walking out, but from the state forcing dad out. As noted in the resolution, having the father involved in the child's life is a boon to the child. Bills that would have gotten fathers more involved in the raising of the child, such as equal parenting bills, have languished in this very committee for years. As the resolution notes, there are disincentives to father involvement, and a huge part of that is our broken legal system. I have equal custody of my son, and his life is all the better for it. He even told his mother that now things that are equal, he doesn't feel like he's being torn apart. What did it take to get there, though? My son's mother spent almost $100,000 fighting to keep me from being equally involved in his life. It took 7 years of fighting, a divorce case, a SAPSER case, multiple judicial complaints, complaints on a court reporter, bar complaints, a mandamus, multiple interpleaders into my case, and family law corruption being exposed. In the last SAPSER case, my wife was battling leukemia, and we mourned the loss of our unborn child due to her cancer. This case continued on despite me begging for this to stop. Can any legislator or family law attorney tell me how this was in the best interest of my son? However, her attorney was still filling her with lies and nonsense as that greedy attorney grew fat on money given by untruths. We finally came to an agreement after, in my opinion, her corrupted attorney, Darrell Weinman, was broken by me and ran cowardly away from this case, having robbed my son's mother of money that could have been spent on him instead. After this devil, and I extend that to most family law attorneys, was no longer whispering in her ear, she realized I wasn't the bad guy I was made out to be. You want to remove disincentives to father involvement? Start with equal custody. Second, get avaricious attorneys out of our court system. My son certainly one day will be grateful for my tenacity, but you have to ask yourself, is this really what it takes to be a father involved in a child's life in Texas? The state of Texas must wake up and realize the importance of fathers. Every legislator on this committee has been bombarded with research relating to this, and yet nothing is done session after session.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Let me see if there are any questions. Mr. Champagne, are there any questions? Thank you for your testimony, sir.
Thank you.
The chair calls Brandon Johnson.
Thank you, Chairman Dutton. Brandon Johnson for this resolution and represent myself. There's so much with this, but I do support the resolution. There has been research done on this with funded by the Attorney General's office with Cynthia Osborne when she was employed by the University of Texas that pointed to fatherhood involvement, maximizing fatherhood involvement was best for the children, but not for the Attorney General's office. And so basically that Cynthia's work has been buried, taken off the internet, and is, I imagine we can get it through some information requests, but other than that, it's hidden. All the statistics point to negative impact of fathers being mandated absent by the state. You opened this session. I was not here, but I listened to it about the ineptness and understaffed state agencies that are raising our children. And then today's testimony has piggybacked off of that same sentiment. And, Representative Vasut, he's talking about being old school and wants families to stay together and all that kind of stuff. That's great, except for that's just not the way it is. And I say this to people all the time. It's the difference between what ought to be and what is. And it'd be real nice if parents stayed together, but when you have the state interjecting itself into family affairs for state profits through this Title 4D program, then it's a conflict of interest. And although I would agree with Representative Vasut, it's just not the way it is. And also it's been mentioned that equal rights, duties, but also possession is going to, I know it's a tiring thing to hear, Representative Wu, but every woe in the state has to do with mandated absent fathers, period. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Chair calls Cody Taylor.
Cody Taylor, for myself and my daughter. I am for this resolution. It's 2023. Could you imagine what 100 years ago was whenever you, or could have been, whenever somebody had to actually make a resolution about fathers? What built this world? I'm not here to degrade or anything about women and what they do for our lives. Clearly they bear the children for us all to be called fathers when that time comes. But can you imagine what it would be like if we had to degrade a woman to a piece of paper to say that she's a good mother or that she should have been? Almost everybody here on this panel probably is either married or has kids or has grandkids or has nieces, nephews. You wouldn't have that without a dad. You wouldn't have that without a male. What would you be today, Representative Cook, Wu, Dutton, Ms. Jones, and James, if you didn't have your father?
Happy.
Do what?
Not traumatized.
Well, I can tell you this. I wouldn't have the balls to stand up here and talk to you if I didn't have mine. My father stood up in front of you at 73 years old and talked to you about the corruption inside of Jefferson County and what it took for me as a father for over 3.5 years to fight a judge, not the system, a judge, in a biased nature. The only way that I get to talk to my daughter now, due to everything that happens, is through a FaceTime. This is it. This is how I get to talk to my daughter for 15 minutes. And unfortunately, I have to work on the weekend. So guess what? If I miss 15 minutes, I may not even get to talk to her. My job does not require me to sit at a desk all day. It requires me to be in the field. And if you could, for 2 minutes, see what the average male work life is here, it's people out there. They're not in offices. They're on the roads. They're on the streets. They're leaving their house like I did at 3:30 in the morning to try to be here, to be in front of y'all. Fathers need a little bit more. We don't ask for much, but we ask that you start taking this seriously. We all have our backgrounds. We all have our history. And I get that there's not always a father that's perfect, but there's also not mothers that are. But we're proposing a resolution on fathers. They're that important. I wouldn't be here today without mine. And here's the problem with that, Mr. Cook, and I'm bringing this to you. I'm adopted. That's not even my father, not blood. That man stood up and took ownership of me after the fact that my mother and dad didn't want me for their reasons. That's the only father I know. What would I have been like if I'd have been in the system and didn't have that father? Please start looking at this thing as the standpoint of 50-50, equal for both. If we start there, you wouldn't have to spend my taxpayer money for new facilities and more people.
All right, thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any questions, members? Mr. Taylor? I don't think there are any. Thank you for your testimony.
I appreciate it.
Chair calls Jeffrey Morgan.
My name is Jeffrey Morgan. I am representing myself. So since the last time we met here last Wednesday, I received this text message from somebody. And let you know, I don't advocate just for fathers. I advocate for parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, everything. This lady wrote to me, I know you advocate for fathers' rights. I had a Facebook acquaintance that committed suicide this weekend in Midland. His ex-wife was tormenting him. He was posting screenshots. He shot himself to death. He killed himself. And when I talked with the lady, I reached out to her. She said, 7 years this has been going on, harassing, bullying, tormenting. Paid $2,000 a month for 3 children and child support, lived on $2,300. Couldn't see his children because of what she was doing. She said 50-50 shared parenting would have actually saved his life. Leah Ward Sears is a Supreme Court justice from Georgia. And she was actually being considered for the U.S. Supreme Court by President Barack Obama. She talks about what happened to her brother and how it changed her life. Her brother's name was Tommy. And Tommy enlisted in the service, was killed overseas, and they got the phone call. She kind of knew what was going to be happening, what the call was about, but she was shocked because it said Tommy killed himself. After Tommy's sudden death, we found my brother's personal effects. In his personal effects, a questionnaire he had completed in 2005 for a church class. The very first question was a fill in the blank that went like this. At the end of my life, I'd love to be able to look back and know that I had done something about fathers. That's what he said. This is happening nationwide. And how sad it is that we have to have a resolution like this to say, wow, you know what? Fathers are important. I miss my father every week. I wish I had one more hour with them. And yet what you guys are doing with the laws that you have, you are kicking fathers out of kids' lives and not even giving them an explanation as to why. Almost everybody here that I know in this room has been because we've been fighting against this evil system. I knew none of these people 6, 7 years ago. These are my friends. I have their back. They have mine. There's no reason I should know them. We come from all over the state. With Dad Talk today, we've been through various states. We've been up to at the federal level. We've been to conferences, multiple, to advocate on behalf of that. We need to have father involvement. We need to have intact families. And Representative Schatzline, is that how you say it? I'd like to talk with you further. I did talk with you one time, but I just want to thank you so much for this resolution.
All right, can you go ahead and conclude?
Yes. Basically, all I'd just like to do is, it's just absolutely a shame that we have come to the place that we have declared such war on fathers and families that we have to have a resolution to say fathers are important.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Morgan. Chair calls Delilah Crosby.
My name is Delilah Crosby. I represent myself, the Crosby family, and a lot of the fathers that I advocate on behalf of. I am for this resolution. I would like to start by saying this resolution immediately acknowledges the important roles of fathers. Yet, in a lot of your counties, over 85% of fathers are the non-custodial parents. The Texas Family Law Foundation will tell you that the standard possession order is basically 50-50 custody, but in reality, why is it that only fathers are placed on these orders and mothers fight tooth and nail to ensure that they're not the parent who gets 4 days to 6 days a month? Some of my background is I am a PTA president all over Mansfield and Arlington, Texas. I am also a civic leader with multiple veteran groups. I do a lot of community service everywhere. And if there's one thing I have learned, it is that the biggest lie is that there are children without fathers. I have actively brought people onto my PTA who are fathers who had trouble accessing schools. They had to join my PTA just to be involved in their child's lives. Our principals calls for Doors for Dads. Right there in Mansfield, Texas, we are always engaging our fathers. In Arlington, Texas, we have Fathers for Engaged in Excellence. So we do all recognize this, but we are not legalizing it. In fact, fathers are literally told that they are simply money providers for these children. Also, I noticed that Representative Wu, respectfully, you scoffed earlier at Cody Taylor for saying that this is traumatic. This is an extremely traumatic event, and I can tell you that myself because I am the mother of 5 children. My children's father is in their life. I don't have these issues where I expect him to pay me to raise my children. But my husband, a Purple Heart veteran, permanently and totally disabled, he's allowed to raise all 5 of our children, but he's not allowed to raise one because the family court decided that mom gets to make all the decisions. It is so traumatic that we have dealt with police altercations at school events. We have dealt with him going to jail for child support, even though his Social Security disability benefits pay his child support. So it is very traumatic, so traumatic that One Safe Place took our family in for this and considered him a domestic violence victim. Him, myself, and all of my children have had to go to counseling over this, and the Department of Family and Protective Services ordered his daughter to have continuous counseling for a very long time. Her counselor also testified that she needed counseling for the rest of her life for the grief that she suffers with her father not being included. So I do hope that you guys pass this resolution and consider 50-50 custody for our fathers.
All right, thank you. Let's see if there are any questions, Ms. Crosby. Any questions for Ms. Crosby? I think not. Thank you for your testimony. Oh, the chair calls David Green.
Thank you, Chairman Dutton and members of the committee. My name is David Green, and I am testifying on behalf of myself, and I am in favor of this resolution. As many people have previously said, children raised without a father actively involved in their lives are at higher risk for a variety of ills compared to children with two actively engaged parents. They're more likely to experience drug abuse, be victims of abuse and neglect, and have behavioral problems. They're twice as likely to drop out of high school and 3 times as likely to carry guns and deal drugs. Girls raised without both parents involved are 7 times as likely to become pregnant as a teenager. Texas can't increase the role fathers play in children's lives when parents separate by passing an equal parenting bill. For over a decade, we have been trying to get a floor vote and have not been able to. It's time Texas shows it values fathers in children's lives, and I'm in hope this resolution passes. Thank you for your time and allowing me to speak.
All right. Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Green, are there any questions? Members of this witness? Not hearing any, thank you. Chair calls Kimi Lynn Reed.
My name is Kimi Lynn Reed. I am testifying for this bill, and I represent myself and Lone Star Family Advocacy Group. In 2018, I entered into the family court system where immediately it was clear there was corruption going on behind the scenes. Opposing counsel conspired with my attorney, and they decided how my case was going to be handled right at that very moment. At that very moment, within 2 months, a silver bullet was fired, and as of March 19th, 2023, it's been 3 years since I've seen my son. 4 years ago, when this all started, I was fortunate enough to come into contact with several other advocates, several other family advocates. And I started advocating also. What I came to know is that in this process, I was a minority. I was less than 10% of women fighting to see their children. Everybody I went anywhere with and shared this concept of having your child stolen from you in family court with all of the validation I give. Taran Champagne's allegations all listed family court corruption, lawyers seeking nothing but money. All of that is valid in so many cases. It is not a situation that happens only some of the time. Family court corruption and the theft of children through family court happens all day, every day. But the people who don't get to see their children more often than not are men. Men leave without their children. The difference between having a silver bullet fired, typically speaking, at a woman is that we, more often than not, do not get the allegation of sexual abuse. The number of fathers who are shot with a silver bullet that includes sexual abuse allegation is astronomical, and no penalties go to these women who go there and do that. And then a large percentage of these fathers go on suicide watch. These fathers do not deserve to be put through that. I have gone on suicide watch with many fathers who have gone through the trauma of having their children stolen from them, and then through the trauma of defending themselves in court. I would like to verify and speak for myself. If it wasn't for my dad, the skills, the love, and care that my father gave to me when I was a little girl, the same age as Cody Taylor's little girl who was being deprived her father because of a corrupt judiciary, I would not have survived having my son stolen from me. So I am absolutely for this bill, and I highly encourage you all to seek out getting the shared parenting bill, because so many people would not be victimized by the family court system if you do.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. Any questions, members of this witness? Not hearing any. Chair calls Justin McLord.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee. My name is Justin McLord, representing myself, and I'm absolutely for this resolution. So typically, I know you've heard a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of statistics today, which is phenomenal, from David Bellows, Taran Champagne. And typically, I would deliver the same information. Over the last two sessions, I did. Today, a little something different. And I was hoping to speak with you as a parent, right? As a father to father, or somebody who grew up with a positive male influence in their lives. And as such, I want to take you back just a little bit, right? I want to take you back to the days where you read bedtime stories to your kids, to the times you made breakfast and got your kids off to school, played one-on-one basketball, showed them how to throw a ball, catch a ball, right? Or the days when you did absolutely nothing except sit and talk and bond, right? And I can go on and on and on with that. Do you remember those days? Now I want you to imagine someone took that all away from you. How would you feel? I guess more importantly, what would you do? And I'm certain you'd be standing behind this podium fighting for change like we're doing back here. You know, and that's really what it is. In closing, I know that you're great parents, right? You're great fathers and moms. Otherwise, you wouldn't be where you're at. You wouldn't work so tirelessly for Texas children, right, and families. But I want to leave you with this, I guess. Would your kids be the people they are, or would your sons be the men they are today if you're not involved in their lives? And I want you to think about that. I hope that resonates with y'all, because I know that you're fathers and your mothers, right? Just think about that. I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much.
All right, thank you, Mr. McLord. Any questions of this witness, members? Not hearing any, thank you for your testimony. Chair calls Wanda Best.
Hi, my name is Wanda Best. I'm representing myself, and I am for this resolution. Please bear with me as I'm very nervous to be up here. I would like to share some statistics that you will not hear from anyone else. These relate specifically to my family. Within my immediate family, there have been 25 marriages. 15 of those marriages have ended in divorce. That is a 60% divorce rate. Within my immediate family, there are 21 children. 18 of those children are from divorced parents. That is an 86% of the children in my family impacted by current family laws. All but two families were given standard possession schedule, which meant that the children were given very limited time with their fathers. Of those 18 children, there were 10 teenage or unplanned pregnancies, or 55%. One child has been in and out of jail since he was a teenager. 3 had problems with drug use for several years. 1 still does. Another died at the age of 25 from a drug overdose. 4 were abused physically and or sexually by their mother or their mother's new husband or boyfriend. 1 child at the age of 14 was described by her counselor to have the emotional maturity of a 7-year-old at the age of 14. 2 children were forced to testify against one of their parents, only to finally admit after questioning that they had been coached by the custodial parent to lie. Other effects of no access to their fathers meant 5 children had no father at their high school graduation, 3 college graduations, 4 weddings, and the birth of 1 grandchild. 7 children were never allowed to have a relationship with their fathers. One of the families was ordered by another state to share 50-50 custody with their 2-year-old son, while the parents lived 1,200 miles apart. These parents reconciled after 2 years and are still together 13 years later. Another family had agreed to equal parenting when they divorced. Their son was 18 months old and lived over 2,000 miles apart. Once the child became school age, the parents learned how to co-parent and made decisions on parenting time that worked best for their son. He has grown into a successful young man and never suffered what the other children in my family have suffered from. I personally made the decision to change the agreement with my ex-husband after 13 years of standard possession to give my daughter equal time with her father. It immediately ended 95% of the fighting that had been going on between us. Today we enjoy gatherings for birthdays and other celebrations with our daughter and grandson. My parents have been married 60 years. That's not anything special, but I can't imagine it any other way. I proudly was my father's guardian in November 2019 on Honor Flight 43 to Washington, D.C. in recognition of his military service. A memory that we will treasure forever. My grandfather fought on islands, Okinawa, Saipan, Tainan, and fought his way to the top
Would you
of Mount.
please wrap up for us?
Yes, sir. I'm almost there. He fought his way to the top of Mount Suribachi on the island of Iwo Jima. He was there for the first flag raising. I would not be who I am today without either of these men in my life. Please give our children their fathers back.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Best. Any questions of this witness, members?
Thank you.
Not hearing any. Thank you. You were great. Chair calls David Bellow.
David Bellow. I'm testifying for the bill, representing myself. I think that this is a fantastic resolution addressing the issues that fatherlessness has created here in America and in Texas. And it's not even just about fathers. If we had more fathers involved, we would change so many children's lives. You've already heard the statistics. You know the statistics of the majority of teen crime, teen pregnancy, teen drug use, all come from homes without fathers, with unequal parenting. I actually walked around the Capitol today with Kimberly, and you actually called her up earlier, but she already had to leave. She's actually from Baltimore. She ran for for Congress, and very widely popular, in the nation. Running for Congress in Baltimore, walking through the streets of Baltimore, talking about the crime and the problems. And she was here because she heard Texas had a bill, or Texas was recognizing fathers, and and the need for fathers to be equally involved with equal parenting. And she wanted to testify on this because she is a single mother, a black single mother from Baltimore, said that equal parenting is best for mothers. She would not have been able to come up here today if her ex-husband wasn't being equally responsible and watching the child today while she was able to come up here. So equal parenting, being fathers involved in children's lives helps women. It gives them more freedom to go out and have the same job and the same pay as fathers, because the fathers have to be equally responsible. This is about equality with men and women, and it's about what's best for children. The fatherless epidemic has harmed children drastically. And then lastly, it's harmed men. All right? We live in a society where men are committing suicide at crazy rates. Last session at the Equal Parenting Bill, we had 150 people testify on fatherlessness, and one guy was in the military and testified that he had more men in his unit die from suicide because they couldn't see their children when they came back from fighting for America. All right, we have an epidemic of children being taken from one parent or another in the unequal parenting system, and typically it's the fathers, but it can be the mothers too. And so the best way to help fatherlessness issue, this epidemic, is to promote equal parenting. And so thank you for this resolution, recognizing this is such a large issue. And there are some people in the movement, like in every movement, that maybe they do some things that not everyone agrees with. And let me tell you right now, please don't judge the whole issue based on a couple people that might not, be doing things the right way. Please stand up for fathers, and please set a hearing for equal parenting as well. Thank you.
Any question, Mr. Bellow? Not hearing any. Thank you. Chair calls Charles, and I can't remember how to pronounce his last name. Charles Suis. That's not right.
There's no W.
Suis.
Go with Dr. Seuss or Ceasefire. Which one would you like?
Well, I want you to tell me.
All right. I'm Charles Stephen Suis. I am here. The question of representation is interesting. So I was talking. Do you see Ted Vincent registered to also testify?
I'm sorry?
Do you see Ted Vincent also registered to testify?
We're just going to listen to you testify right now. Okay.
Well, he had to leave, and he handed me his notes. I told them that I would try to pass them in as testimony if that's possible, and if we can't do it for me representing him, then I'll just tag him onto my own.
Does it have his name on it?
No. Nope, I don't.
We can't.
I can write it.
We can't enter it into the record.
All right.
Okay.
Well, in that case, how much time do I get?
I don't know, but you're using it up now.
All right. So I'm Charles Stephen Cease. I am for the resolution. I want to praise y'all for please pass the resolution. I don't want to be mean, but I have to say some unpleasant things. I want to encourage y'all to pass the resolution, but also go the next step further. You have a bill in the committee that embodies this resolution, 3379. Take it to the next level. Set it for a hearing, please.
Now, you have to limit your testimony to this bill, right?
This resolution
Right.
wraps around the concepts that are embodied in that other bill. I wish Ted were here to run through his notes. He's got some good ones, but what it boils down to, the $50 billion industry around family court incentivizes the state of Texas and the judiciary and contributes to corruption in our family courts. And we know that there's a sugary diet involved with Title 4D and the lobbying organizations and family law and attorneys. We know how it works now. We're going to help y'all work on it. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay. Let's see if there are any questions. Any questions, members, for this witness? Not hearing any. Thank you for being here. Chair calls Ted Vinson. That's right. He is not here. He was for the resolution, testifying on behalf of himself. We'll show him as not testifying, but for the resolution.
If I go ahead and write his name on this, can I contribute it?
No, sir.
All right.
No, sir, you can't do that.
All right.
What is that?
I did tell him I would try.
Thank you.
y'all.
Thank you. Chair calls George Saldana.
My name is George Saldana. I'm for this resolution. Is there one more question? George Saldana. I'm for the resolution.
And you're representing yourself.
Yes, I'm representing myself.
Thank you.
And I'm here, when I come to Austin, I come here to do business. I don't come here to fluff every legislator up, to tell them how great of a job they're doing. I'm here to conduct business for my children. The Supreme Court has said we have a duty, right, to support our children. We don't have a nay out here that has come up and say we don't like this resolution. It's pretty sad that we have to have these individuals come and grovel to the JJFI and beg to hear some bills or to have parents reinstated in their children's lives. What are we doing? Martin Luther King. Let's talk about Rosa Parks. Let's talk about equality. Transgender is a big movement right now. Everybody wants equality. But we're showing you statistics straight from the Attorney General's office that y'all are overlooking. Their own non-custodial handbook printed with our tax dollars state that there's 90% non-custodial are men. Is that equal? Absolutely not. Could we treat our transgender population with 90%? Absolutely not. It wouldn't look good, would it? So y'all want to hold us accountable, and the reason why everybody's fighting about child support, which everybody welcomes child support, y'all all want the fathers to be involved, right? But y'all don't give us a chance because we have to come over here. We have to, instead of filing a bill, we have to do a resolution to come over here. And then we get snide comments by Representative Wu. We're the taxpayers. When I come here, I come to do business. I'm not here to play with you guys. I'm doing my due diligence as a father for my 3 kids whom fit that statistic everybody's been telling you about. My daughter got pregnant at 15. They filed a bogus protective order. I'm not being paid to be here. I'm sitting over here with everybody else coming, and they're all telling you their sad stories. And it's sad. In San Antonio, in 2016, there was 12,354 visitation violations. I started a movement, Interference with Child Custody, because fathers want to be in the lives of their children. So if the JJFI wants to hold fathers accountable for child support, why don't we equally share that duty and make sure that that mom is allowing that father to be present? Because you can't call him an absent father if he's trying to be there when the judge has mandated he be there.
All right, Mr. Saldana, let me see if there are any questions. So, any questions, members? I'm not hearing any. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Chair.
Representative Schatzline
Oh,
to step out.
okay.
To another committee.
Yeah, Chair recognizes Representative Cook to close.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Schatzline asked me to reiterate the following points as part of his closing, that HCR, this resolution simply affirms that the legislature recognizes the importance of fatherhood in the lives of children. It affirms the legislature is committed to researching and understanding the root causes of fatherlessness and crafting public policy that supports and encourages fully engaged fatherhood. And lastly, that this resolution supports the message that Texas families and the rest of the nation, that here in Texas, we are committed to solving the issues that affect our next generation. And with that, members, I'd be glad to entertain any questions. Otherwise, I close on behalf of Representative Schatzline.
Yeah, I just had one question. I wish he was here, but I'll ask him on the House
I'll do
floor.
my best, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, and on the second page, on the third page rather, line 5 through 9, it says the legislature recognizes the threat of government growth in prosperity, responsibility, and liberty. And
Did you say, I'm sorry, did you say page 1? Or?
page 3, I'm sorry. And I just wondered if that ought to go in a separate resolution someplace as opposed to the resolution about fathers.
Is it lines 5 through 9?
Yes.
Okay. I'll be glad to make a note of that and ask Representative Schatzline if he'd be willing to remove that.
Yeah. Okay.
Before a vote is taken.
Well, I just didn't, I didn't see the connection between those lines and, okay.
Thank you, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right.
I close.
All right. It's the chair's intent to leave House Concurrent Resolution number 81 pending before the full committee. Without objection, chair hears none, and so ordered.